It's funny to think back over the past couple of years with all the film delays that we had and consider that most of the titles that we were aware of 2019, 2020, around that general time, most of those titles have debuted in theaters, and we've sort of re-entered that space somewhat in at least a twinge of normalcy. At least that's a general feeling of, movies are being worked on, not having to face these extended delays. We're sort of back to cinema viewing as usual and debut schedules as usual back, pre-COVID. But Top Gun Maverick, out of the group, I think got the longest delay. At this point, we've had, again, so many titles. I'm sure you can think of many that were delayed that probably your favorite watches that you're probably not too happy about when the delay dates started getting thrown out. And maybe even then the schedules got even further delayed and it was a constant reshuffling of dates. Again, we were all aware of what happened over the last couple of years. But Top Gun Maverick really did, again, get an extended wait period. So I'm interested, to consider... I don't know, I think about this because at this point with this trailer, I am covering this a bit late, apologies. I'm actually fast-tracking the video tonight because I'm like, I meant to cover Top Gun Maverick again way earlier. I have not looked at this film in a long time, so it feels like I'm kind of taking this long-awaited reunion, but I'm actually seeing the film tonight. So I figured, again, I would fast-track and take a look at this new trailer going in just to get my, thoughts up about the movie. I was going to rewatch Top Gun before going in. I didn't get a chance to. But even with the delay, sometimes I think of past pictures and I'm like, well, when there's been a long extended wait period, that might affect the box office and the audience pool coming into the theater. It doesn't seem to have done that with Top Gun Maverick. In fact, I maybe would say the wait period helped. Or maybe it's that this is a nostalgic release, but this is coming off of an old classic 80s movie. Perhaps it's the nature of the film in regard to its general audience poll. I mean, there's a lot of factors that I think could explain Top Gun Maverick's success. Maybe it could be that not all the other films in the theatrical window right now have delivered. There's been a couple clunkers I can think of in terms of their quality, but this one, from what I've seen, has gotten rave reviews across the board, and it continues to dominate the charts. I mean, it's making a lot of money. For Top Gun, I wouldn't have expected that, but it must be that people do like classic movie fare. I do too. I mean, maybe that's generally why. I don't know. It's an unusual circumstance, I'd say. But either way, Top Gun, I'm excited to watch it. I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. I liked the first film. And again, it's been a while since I've watched this movie. From what I remember, it did look really good. But I'm always game to see something of Tom Cruise. Again, favorite actor of mine. Let me give this new trailer a roll. And for those of you who, of course, have seen the movie largely before I have, I'm sure... maybe rewatching this ad, you're reminded of some of the many good moments. For me, again, this is sort of like taking a necessary rewind because it was a while back when I watched those ads. All right, without further ado, let's rewind the clock a bit back to when things felt a bit more normal in regard to movie viewing of Top Gun Maverick.
Here we go.
Now that it's finally coming out, or at this point, it's come out.
One.
It's a beautiful presentation. I mean, like I said, I think this film would definitely fare very well with the Air Force military veteran crowd.
I thought we were special.
Fellas, this
I'd be interested to see the statistics in regard to the audience demographics in terms of who's approaching the movie. I mean, I don't necessarily know if they track like veterans, but that'd be interesting to find out.
Who the hell are they going to get to teach us?
Paramount's like, we've got to win. Yay, Star Trek didn't totally derail us.
Maverick Mitchell.
We've got some success.
Let me be perfectly blunt. You are not my first choice. You are here at the request of Admiral Kazansky, a.k.a. Iceman. He seems to think that you have something left to offer the Navy.
They've really doubled down at Paramount in terms of classic film fare.
With all due respect,
in regard to the general feeling of like mainstream
just want to manage expectations.
American viewing. I mean, Top Gun has done well. Yellowstone is their brand. And that shows a raving success. I mean, I think Paramount's definitely seen some area here in regard to growth for them as a brand. I definitely think they've certainly gotten a win with Top Gun.
2, 1.
We're going into combat on a level no living pilot's ever seen.
We're in August at this point, and it's still doing well. That is generally surprising.
Believe me.
Like Top Gun of all movies, but that's beautiful.
My dad believed in you. I'm not gonna make the same mistake.
Someone's not coming back from this.
Those are your pilots. Anything happens to them.
I'm still a bit bummed that Kelly McGinnis isn't in the movie, but I'll forgive it.
Forgive yourself.
They're planning to make a Top Gun 3, so I wouldn't be surprised maybe they're like, okay, you know, we'll redeem ourselves and bring her back.
Having any fun yet?
Like I said, it's really interesting to see the volume of content coming out from Paramount and where programs are doing well. I think, you know, even this is, I guess this is a side point, but in consideration of the other studios, like I said, this film is faring very well amidst many other theatrical films, some of which are seeing some success, but many others are definitely falling way under Top Gun. And how many weeks later, in terms of this debuting from like May 27th, it's August 12th as I'm filming this, it's still doing really well. And it's still building its way up in regard to the mainstream charts. I'm fascinated by what I see with Paramount in that I look at the brand offerings they have, and I like Paramount stuff, but some of their pictures are faring better than others in terms of the programs. I think maybe it has to do with the general openness in regard to the mainstream audience. I mean, I would say Top Gun is accessible for everyone, whereas some of her films feel like they bend toward a particular direction. And some of their, you know, fare does. I mean, I haven't seen many of her Star Trek ventures, but I've certainly heard, you know, from Star Trek fans about the general animus that it's expressed quite colorfully in regard to their newer productions, and that it doesn't necessarily match what people grew up with in regard to a classic franchise like Star Trek for many people. But then again, I look at where Paramount's facing success. I would definitely say with Star Trek, they're facing a lot of pushback and failure from that brand, I mean, both in audience reception and it seems general quality. But then I look at where Paramount is successful, like Top Gun, like Yellowstone, which I binged it soon after I started watching it. That show is so good if you've never seen it. It's just the general feel of these films. It's really interesting, again, to see Paramount as this sort of unexpected case study of where there's the most strength in regard to receiving an audience. I find it fascinating. And maybe you get to the side point, you're like, well, you know, that's not necessarily what I was thinking of. Maybe you're going too deep into this. Don't talk about the movie. I mean, the quality here is good. Again, this is a nostalgic watch. Tom Cruise is in this, obviously referring back to an old 1984 movie, which was fabulous. And I still hear rave reviews about it to this day, especially from people that are in my general surroundings that have really remembered the film or maybe perhaps the theatrical experience. I had a friend from, actually, he was a former military who definitely shared his account earlier on of how much Top Gun meant to him. And I'm sure I didn't get a chance, of course, to go with him into theaters because obviously I'm still covering this now, but I'm sure he probably went. I'm 100% sure because of all the rave reviews I've heard from audiences. Generally, that's been the response. I'm sure he was probably looped in there. It's a nostalgic watch. Again, I love Tom Cruise and so many other big names. I mean, Val Kilmer's in here. John Hamm, I like him. Miles Teller as well. Kelly McGinnis might not be. I'll forgive it, but I've still said, well, you know, I'd like to see her again because she was definitely a fun part of the first movie, and to not see her, it is kind of sad, but it's beautiful to watch. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Tom Cruise as an action actor in terms of his stunts. I mean, we've seen this, of course, in Mission Impossible, which he's done a fabulous job in those films with, and he's suffered for it in regard to some of his injuries, but I look at it in terms of how much effort he puts into the films he makes, and all the flight stuff here, it's just beautiful. And the way it's portrayed in the movie, I mean, so many scenic natural shots in regard to different environments. I like the mixture of areas and geography. I mean, you got some scenes that are sort of like in a Sahara desert, maybe with a sunset overarching. The wintertime sequences really get me. I love watching films, you know, have scenes in particular set in maybe a more mountainous setting or a wintertime climate. You oftentimes, especially when if it's executed well enough, you get a beautiful experience in regard to seeing a very scenic nature attribute. It looks like, again, a very entertaining watch. And in regards to the cinematography, as the planes are going by, again, it's such an enthralling viewing. I'd love to see an audience breakdown of who perhaps is pulled in the most. I mean, we don't oftentimes, I mean, we get some data in regard to box office arrivals and, you know, who shows up, but Let me pose this question for you. For those of you who have seen Top Gun at this point, maybe you're like me. You're like, well, I haven't seen it in the theater yet. I'm going tonight. I can't wait to watch it. But for you, perhaps, that went, I'd love to hear perhaps consideration on what area you come from. I mean, again, I feel that this release is generally open in atmosphere to anybody, that wants to go see a good movie or just a classic film. But then I think about maybe in terms of the specific strengths, maybe the crowd that feels other films don't necessarily have, again, that general focus to them or a broad reach. I'd love to see statistics, as I said, in regard to veterans and people who have served in the military and the Air Force. I would love to see how many people showed up for that. I mean, that would be quite an illuminating statistic, I would think. I'd be curious to hear what angle you come from down below, as well as perhaps, no spoilers please if you've seen the movie, but what were your general thoughts on it? Again, like I said, I'm going to go see it tonight. I have a lot of respect for the film. It's cool to see a film like Top Gun, and quite surprising, this many weeks out, succeed at the rate that it has, but Paramount's, I'm sure they've wanted success for a long time, as I stated. Maybe they've got, a mix of franchises that don't always deliver, but they've had a success with this. To the level it succeeded, I'm still really surprised, but Top Gun Maverick is a very strong feature, even amid the delay. That didn't seem to affect it, because audiences are showing up en masse for it, and it seems that they're in for a very rewarding experience based upon what I've seen in the trailers thus far and what I've covered. Even the trailers themselves are nostalgic watches given the delay, but it really feels like a classic film. And definitely one that feels very approachable in nature. And I'm curious to see the future, of not only where Paramount goes in regard to the brands and shows they produce based on the success of Top Gun, but perhaps the future of Top Gun. I would suspect there would be one. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.